Han Li, who was in the mid-nascent soul stage, went to the northern night palace to meet the white demoness. He asked this woman to help him find the profound ice flower. Just as Han Li was cultivating in his room, the grand elder of this palace, Adept Han Li, invited Han Li for a meeting. He mentioned a way to enhance the power of the Qianlan ice flame, and then he asked Han Li, "How did you recognize this ice flame at a glance? Could it be that you've seen it somewhere else?" After saying this, Adept Han Li's eyes flashed with a golden light, as he stared at Han Li without blinking. Hearing this, Han Li's heart lurched, but he replied with a calm expression, "I simply read about it in an ancient text. I saw a record of this ice flame, because it's quite unique. I've always remembered it." Since he knew that the Northern Night Palace and the Heavenly Void Palace had many indescribable connections, and he possessed the Heavenly Void Cauldron, how could he dare to casually reveal this matter? Seeing Han Li answer so decisively, Adept Han Li was taken aback for a moment, but he immediately let out a light laugh. "It seems I was overthinking things. This Qianlan ice flame can actually be considered an item unique to our Northern Night Palace. In other places, it's indeed unlikely that this ice flame exists. Since that's the case, I will speak frankly, it's actually very simple. Fellow Taoist, you've probably guessed some of it. I need to borrow Brother Han's nascent flame to lend me a hand." As Adept Han Li spoke to this point, his expression became serious. Han Li, however, listened attentively, knowing that he didn't need to ask. The other party would surely continue speaking. But after Adept Han Li paused, he asked with a hint of a peculiar look in his eyes, "Brother Han, what do you think of my cultivation level, compared to an ordinary nascent? Can you see any difference in my late-stage cultivation?" "A difference. Fellow Taoist, you are without a doubt a nascent soul late-stage cultivator. But compared to the other great cultivators I have met before, your spiritual sense and cultivation are much stronger. From this perspective, you seem to be different from ordinary nascent soul late-stage cultivators. There's something different?" Since the other party said so, Han Li didn't hold back and used his spiritual sense to carefully scan him over once. He seemed to have discovered something, and said with some hesitation, "My cultivation is already at the peak of the nascent soul late stage. I am only half a step away from the deity transformation stage. But in reality, I have been lingering in this realm for 300 years. During that time, I consumed all kinds of spirit pills, and used various secret techniques to break through the bottleneck. Only then was I finally able to get half a foot through the gate of the deity transformation stage. My current appearance is from consuming those spirit pills. It wasn't supposed to be like this." Venerable Han Li said calmly, "I see. Fellow Taoist, you have already comprehended some of the divine abilities of the deity transformation stage." Han Li was shocked, but then he understood. Hey, after ending up looking like this, I became even more reluctant to meet people. I have been cultivating arduously in seclusion here, researching methods to break through to the deity transformation stage. But this last, thin barrier, I just can't seem to break through it, no matter what. However, these years of hard work have not been in vain. I finally found in several ancient texts a desperate, life-risking method. As long as I follow this method, I have at least a 30% chance of breaking through my bottleneck and entering the deity transformation stage. Do you need to borrow the power of the Night of Extreme Cold? If that's the case, your esteemed palace has so many cultivators who practice ice attribute techniques. It shouldn't be difficult to find an elder who cultivates the Han Yan. Then why do you insist on finding me?" Han Li calmly replied, "However, with this method, I must gather 5 cultivators who have mastered different cold flames to assist me. Only by using the stimulation from so many extreme cold flames do I have a chance of advancing to the deity transformation stage. Within our minor extreme palace, I could only find others who cultivate different cold flames. Among the sects outside the palace that are on good terms with our minor extreme palace, and among the rogue cultivators, I was able to find 2 more. But the final cultivator with an extreme cold flame, this old man searched bitterly for several decades, but was never able to find one, until you, Brother Han, suddenly appeared here." Exalted Master Han Li spoke, and at the same time, an excited expression appeared on his face. "To need to gather 5 types of extreme cold flames. This is truly an extraordinary undertaking. I suppose only the minor extreme palace could pull this off. Otherwise, even a sect like the Tiny Sect, or the Heavenly Devil Sect, wouldn't necessarily be able to gather so many cultivators of extreme cold flames. However, This method should only be effective for cultivators of the same attribute. Correct. Han Li let out a soft breath and asked bluntly, "That's right. This method is indeed only effective for those who cultivate ice attribute techniques, and who also possess an extreme cold flame themselves. Only then does it work. Among the other 4 people, 3 of them also cultivate ice attribute techniques. Only you, fellow Taoist, and 1 other person obtained your cold flames by chance." Exalted Master Han Li's brows furrowed as he replied, "In that case, what price does the Exalted Master intend to pay for my assistance? Although I am unaware of the specific steps of this method for breaking through realms, I'm certain it is something that is extremely draining to one's vital energy, and it's quite possible that for the person assisting, there might also be some danger." A glint flashed in his eyes, but his face revealed nothing unusual. "This old man appreciates a straightforward person like you, Brother Han, putting all conditions on the table to discuss. That's the best way to do things. As long as Brother Han is willing to help, feel free to name any condition. Anything I, Shimao, can do, I will not refuse." Upon hearing Han Li say this, he wasn't angry, but rather pleased. Hearing the other party agree so readily, Han Li let out a light chuckle. "Since you've said as much, fellow Taoist, I won't be polite. First, regarding this method of stimulating a breakthrough in cultivation, I will need a detailed copy of the incantation. The level of danger involved must be within a range I can accept. I will assess that myself. Otherwise, no matter how great the benefits you offer, fellow Taoist, I will not take such a great risk. Of course, this method, this secret technique will be considered part of my payment. No problem. I, Shai, can guarantee that this method is absolutely without danger. I will certainly not let our assistant, fellow Taoist Jew, face any risks. Of course, some damage to one's vital energy is unavoidable," Master Shimao said confidently. "A little damage to my vital energy is no problem for me. Second, I'm sure you've already heard the purpose of my trip. Fellow Taoist, I need to find some ice spirit flowers to concoct a pill. Although I have already asked Fairy Bai for help, if you are also willing to lend a hand, fellow Taoist, I'm sure it will be much easier." Han Li added with a slight smile, "Heh, that's a small matter. I can immediately mobilize all my resources to help you find enough ice spirit flowers as quickly as possible, fellow Taoist." Hearing this condition from Han Li, he agreed at once without a change in expression. "Regarding the secret technique for refining cold energy you mentioned earlier, I will need to make a copy of the incantation. I need it to enhance the power of my violet apex fire. Alright. One last condition. The ZG Palace is from ancient times, an ancient sect passed down through the ages. I happen to be quite interested in those ancient tomes. I wonder if I might be permitted to enter the Changjin Pavilion." This, alright. I agreed to this as well. When Han Li stated his final condition, Venerable Han hesitated slightly, but for some reason, he ultimately nodded in agreement. Since fellow Taoist Han has agreed so readily, it would be wrong of me not to proceed. A look of satisfaction appeared on Han Li's face. "Ha ha ha, fellow Taoist, please wait here. For just a moment, I will go and make a copy of the refined cold night secret technique for you." Venerable Han gave a dry laugh, speaking as if to strike while the iron was hot. Afterwards, he took a white jade slip from the storage pouch at his waist, and began copying the technique into it. Han Li smiled faintly, saying nothing. A moment later, Venerable Han finished copying. He then took another jade slip from his storage pouch, and tossed it toward Han Li along with a jade pendant. Han Li instinctively raised his hand, and pulled the 3 items out of the air, and into his grasp. In one of the jade slips is the method this old man developed for reaching the 4th level realm. But, fellow Taoist, you must remember, this method is only useful for late-stage nascent soul cultivators. As for that jade pendant, take it, and you will be able to enter our ZG Palace's Changjin Pavilion. But let me make this clear to you first, fellow Taoist Han. Although our palace's Changjin Pavilion has countless books, they all have special restrictive seals on them. You cannot copy them directly. You can only read and memorize them by sight. Furthermore, I can only give you 10 days. How much you can absorb in those 10 days is entirely up to you. I will take back this jade pendant then. Fellow Taoist Han, you have no objections, I presume. Reverend Han said, looking at Han Li seriously. Hearing him say this, Han Li was taken aback, but then he glanced at the jade pendant in his hand, and a wry smile appeared on his lips. 10 days it is, then. I have already accepted these items. I can't very well return them to you now. Can I, fellow Taoist? If I had known, I would have made things clear from the start. Fellow Taoist, you truly refuse to suffer even the slightest loss. Look who's talking. Weren't you the one who made an outrageous demand? Reverend Han said with a grin, looking every bit the sly old fox. Heh heh. Once I've accepted something, I don't go back on my word easily. I'll go to the Changjin Pavilion to have a look first. If you have news of the ice lotus flower, you can find me at the Changjin Pavilion, Han Li said with a chuckle. He then stood up and announced his departure. Then I won't see you out. It will also take me some time to gather the others. Fellow Taoist, if you don't have a place to stay, you are welcome to stay here in my palace for a few days. If you have any requests regarding your cultivation, just mention them to junior sister Bai. I will instruct her to do her best to meet your requests. Fellow Taoist. Reverend Han also stood up and said, Thank you for your concern. Fellow Taoist. Han Li cupped his fists without any ceremony. Then, his body glowed with an azure light, transforming into a streak of azure red. He flew out from the entrance. Seeing the azure red light disappear down the passage, the smile on Reverend Han's face gradually faded, and just then, the two golden pillars in the corner of the hall flashed with spiritual light. Immediately after, two figures flickered into view, a man and a woman, each emerging from one of the pillars. The man appeared to be over 40 years old, dressed in green scholar's robes. His features were ordinary. The woman was in her 20s. She was dressed in a white robe. Her face was beautiful. She looks about 50% like Bai Yaoyi, but her skin is abnormally pale. It's even faintly translucent, which looks rather eerie. In the array plate, senior brother, Ziyan has never been tested on this person. What if something goes wrong? What if it's not powerful enough? The moment the man in green robes appeared, he said with a deep frown, This person's aura is somewhat muddled, but it seems to contain the Qianlun essence within it. The power won't be affected much. Besides, how can I afford to wait any longer now? If I don't take this risk, I'm afraid there will never be another chance. Reverend Hanley let out a long sigh, shaking her head. Senior brother, your lifespan truly cannot be extended any further. As far as I know, it seems when Yao Gu is stirring again, on the outskirts of North Dark Island, many disciples have already discovered traces of low-level demons. After all, among the recent batches of disciples who were recruited or returned to the palace, there have also been cases of possession by high-level demons. But, following your instructions, we have been monitoring these people in secret, and have not alerted them, the middle-aged man in green said with a resolute expression. Let's not tip them off yet. The timing is about right. It's been nearly 1,000 years since the last demon horde invasion. It's not surprising that when Yao Gu is making a move now, what is there to panic about? Reverend Hanley's expression was unchanged, as she said faintly, But at a time like this, for you to break through your bottleneck, senior brother, isn't it a bit too risky? Wouldn't it be better to repel these demons first, and then attempt your breakthrough? The middle-aged man in green said hesitantly, Repel them? How long do you expect me to wait? Every time when Yao Gu leads a major attack on our palace, it's not as if it hasn't happened before. This matter of righteously vanquishing the demons has gone on for over 10 years. Yet my own lifespan is only a few years left. How can I wait any longer? Besides, if I break through the bottleneck now, the fellow Taoists will also rush to our palace. Plus this cultivator Han who came on his own. We will immediately have 3 extra nascent soul stage helpers out of nowhere. At that time, they surely won't just stand by and watch, as this palace gets besieged. Right. Ju Ryu stroked his beard and said calmly, But the cold water in our palace has already been stolen by that traitor. Why not just make this matter public? Why must we attract so many demons to attack us over this? The woman in the white robe, who had been silent, suddenly spoke in a cold voice. Her voice was chilling to the bone, as if she were an ice sculpture. Junior sister Bai, you're thinking too simply. Never mind that once this is made public, this palace will completely lose face, greatly damaging our reputation as the #1 sect in the northern lands. And besides, if we say the cold water is gone, do you think those demons will believe us? It's completely useless. You all know very well, the 10,000-year period is approaching again. The icy jade cave in the Hall of Ethereal Spirits is also about to open. If we're lucky, we should be able to collect some more cold water. Rumors outside say that our palace only has 1 bottle of cold water. Who would know that we started using the spiritual liquid for cultivation long ago? Otherwise, with this palace's 3 great cold flames, How could every generation have someone who could cultivate them? That stolen bottle of cold water. Luckily, it was taken before the icy jade cave opens. Otherwise, in all future generations, no one would be able to cultivate the three great cold flames. Revered Han, and I sighed. She turned to stare at the blue flame in the top of the giant, nearby cauldron, and spoke with a hint of wishful thinking. When the green-robed cultivator heard what Han Li said, he could only force a wry smile. All right, you two, that's enough. And my separation and refinement have also stalled. Once I get the sweat, you can take a few drops. The greater the power of the cold liquid, the more it will help me break through my bottleneck, and the greater the hope will be. At that moment, Senior Han Li's tone suddenly changed, and he said, "Thank you, Senior Brother Han Li." The middle-aged man from Qingshan was overjoyed, and hurriedly said so. That woman from Beishan still had an icy expression, but a trace of joy also appeared in her eyes. It seems this sweat is really important to them. Junior Sister Bai, after you leave, have Yaoyi look into the background of this cultivator surnamed Han. This person also participated in the Kunwu Mountain sealing 10 years ago. It's just that countless nascent soul cultivators fell back then. For this person to have escaped unscathed, his divine abilities must be anything but ordinary. Senior Han Li then instructed the woman from Beishan. I understand. I will speak to my younger cousin about this. The woman from Beishan agreed coldly. Very good. You two may leave as well. Senior Han Li nodded in satisfaction. So, the woman from Beishan and the other man immediately took their leave, and also transformed into two streaks of light, shooting away. Senior Han Li stood there pondering for a moment. He turned his head again to stare at the giant cauldron, and muttered something under his breath. If anyone had still been in the great hall, they would have heard Su Tiading. Those three words, spoken clearly from Senior Han Li's mouth. Han Li, of course, did not know that Senior Han Li had uttered the name Su Tiading. At this moment, he was standing in a huge secret chamber. As far as the eye could see, there were rows and rows of exquisite, 10-foot-high stone platforms made of jade. Some were emitting a pure light. These stone platforms were densely packed, stretching out for hundreds of feet at a glance, and on every stone platform, a multicolored barrier of light shimmered. Inside, there were several light barriers of varying sizes, and at the other end of the secret chamber, a staircase leading upwards was clearly visible. At the entrance, a thick barrier sealed it off completely. This is our esteemed palace's treasure pavilion. Han Li was inwardly surprised. After taking a breath, he suddenly turned and asked an old man dressed in a cultivator's robe. Yes, Senior, our palace's scripture pavilion is divided into 7 floors, but each floor stores different types of scriptures. It's not that the higher floors necessarily store more precious scriptures. However, a barrier separates each floor to prevent the jade slips from being mixed up by the disciples who enter. When you wish to enter the next floor, Senior, just say the word to this junior. This junior will be waiting outside for your instructions. Senior, the old man had a subservient look, with his eyes cast down, but the spiritual pressure emanating from him showed that he was a mid-stage core formation cultivator. Understood. You may leave for now. Han Li nodded. He said impassively, yes. The old man respectfully acknowledged and backed out of the room. He also closed the stone door behind him. Seeing that he was now alone in the secret chamber, Han Li walked directly up to one of the light barriers. He took an object in his hand and waved it at the barrier. Instantly, with a soft pop, the light barrier shattered and dispersed, revealing 3 jade slips on the stone platform. Han Li casually picked one up and immersed his spiritual sense into it. At that very moment, on the second floor of the Bai Ning Pavilion, a place Han Li had visited before, there were 2 women dressed in white. They were facing each other, speaking about something. One was, of course, Bai Yaoyi. The other was the one who had been at Senior Han Li's residence, the other female cultivator. The 2 of them bore a slight resemblance to each other, but one is gentle and lovely, while the other is exceptionally cold. I've already told second sister, I don't know much about this fellow Taoist Han, although he once claimed to be a rogue cultivator from overseas. Later, because of the Luo sect and the Heavenly Land Sacred Palace, Duren said he was a cultivator from the Heavenly South. This person's divine abilities are no less than a late-stage Yuaning cultivator. He once fought to a standstill in the Yinyang Grotto against Yin Qi without being at a disadvantage. As for how he managed to escape from Kunwu Mountain, your little sister isn't clear on the details. Bai Yaoyi stood at the attic window, one hand resting on the sill. the other gently stroking her dark, silky hair. Her beautiful brows were slightly furrowed, as if she were somewhat displeased. Don't take offense, seventh sister, for a mere mid-stage cultivator to possess such incredible divine abilities, and to have come from a remote place like the heavenly south. It's truly a bit hard to believe. Although the woman in white's words were tactful, her voice remained as cold as ice, seemingly devoid of any emotion. Bai Yaoyi didn't mind the woman's tone, knowing it was because her older cousin's cultivation technique was too extreme, but her constant questioning about Han Li earlier had still made her a little unhappy. I haven't had much interaction with him either. I only just met him the last time I went out. I can't give you any more details. However, what I told you before was indeed all true. What's going on? Why has the great elder suddenly taken such an interest in fellow Taoist Han? Bai Yaoyi stepped away from the window and asked in a calm, unhurried manner. It's nothing. It's just that this person possesses a kind of eye of extreme cold. He's the very person that Brother Han and I is looking for. Speaking of which, seventh sister, you should have known about this already. Why didn't you mention this to us? The eyes of the woman from White Mountain flickered. She asked coldly. It had been 10 years since I last parted with him. I had no idea if he even survived Mineral Mountain. How could I have rashly mentioned this to senior Brother Han Li? As for now, I originally wanted to help him find the near-death flower first, and then take the opportunity to bring this up. I didn't expect Brother Renshai to have already told the great elder. Bai Yaoyi replied with a hint of disapproval. In that case, I won't ask any more questions. Since this fellow Taoist possesses such divine abilities, it's best that we try to win him over, especially regarding his purple sweat. We must figure out its true power. The woman from White Mountain said bluntly. I understand. If the opportunity arises, I will naturally test it out. Bai Yaoyi's brow twitched. She reluctantly agreed. That would be for the best. I'll take my leave now. Evil spirits may be invading North Underworld Island soon. You should be on alert as well. After saying this, the expressionless woman from White Mountain went downstairs and left. Bai Yaoyi didn't reply. She just watched through the window as the woman from White Mountain transformed into a streak of light, flashed past the pavilion, and vanished. Her face was filled with silent contemplation. Time flew by quickly. Han Li stayed in the Lesser Auspice Palace's Changing Pavilion, and in a blink, 7 or 8 days had passed. He hadn't taken a single step outside. He had already flipped through many of the classic texts that interested him. The rewards were truly substantial, but even so, he had only reached the 3rd floor. Whenever he thought of this, he could only sigh with regret. With the time remaining, he estimated he could only barely reach the texts on the 4th floor. On this day, he was flipping through a book that introduced rare spiritual herbs from the ancient era. Suddenly, a streak of fiery light flashed by in an instant. It shot into the secret chamber, completely ignoring the barrier at the entrance. Han Li was startled, but immediately reached out with a grab. He instantly sucked the fiery spark into his hand, where it turned into a raging ball of fire. It was a voice transmission talisman. He used his spiritual sense to carefully scan the message within the flames. A look of joy appeared on Han Li's face. He immediately placed the jade scissors in his hand onto the stone platform, and instantly transformed into a streak of light, heading downstairs. A short while later, a clear streak of light shot towards the front of Bai Ning Tower. A slender woman was standing there gracefully. It was none other than Bai Yaoyi, her face beaming. Han Li's figure materialized in front of her, and he hurriedly asked, Fellow Taoist Bai, you found the ice-ling flower. Is it really true? Of course, it's true. I originally thought we wouldn't hear anything for a long time, but I didn't expect that Brother Han could actually persuade the Great Elder to dispatch so many people to find this flower's location. Because of that, the search was naturally several times faster. Bai Yaoyi looked at Han Li and gave a radiant smile. This is wonderful. Fairy Bai, if you're free now, let's set off right away. Han Li asked, suppressing the joy in his heart. Of course, we can. I am here specifically to lead the way for Brother Han. However, this 10,000-year-old profound ice is located quite far away. It's outside the bounds of North Light Island. A round trip will probably take several days. Bai Yaoyi chuckled softly. Heh. What's a little time like that? As long as I can get the profound ice flower, I would go even if it took me a year. Han Li said after a hearty laugh, speaking without any hesitation. Hearing Han Li say this, Bai Yaoyi just smiled warmly without a word. And so, the two of them delayed no further. They immediately left the Cold Dawn secret realm. After leaving Ice City, they flew continuously northward. On the way, Bai Yaoyi and Donghua started telling Han Li about the specific situation of this 10,000-year Zhuan ice. In the nest of a snow roar beast, Han Li said, somewhat surprised. Interesting. Yes, the disciple who discovered the Zhuan ice back then was careless and got spotted by that snow roar beast. It chased him for over 100 li and severely injured him. He almost died. Bai Yaoyi said with a nod. Oh, what level are these snow roar beasts? Han Li became a little interested. I'm afraid this might disappoint you, Brother Han. These are only level 5 or 6 demonic beasts. They're hardly worth your attention. Bai Yaoyi said with a smile. Level 5 or 6. You're right. There's not much value in capturing one alive. Han Li chuckled. However, if we go any further, we will leave Beiming Island. From then on, we will be in the open frozen sea. It's not like being on the island. Out here is the domain of demonic beasts. All sorts of demonic beasts appear one after another, and the farther we are from the island, the higher the level of the demonic beast will be. Of course, generally speaking, within a few days' journey, it's impossible for demonic beasts above level 8 to appear. The two of us have nothing to worry about. But deep within the frozen sea, there are often many terrifying monsters. Even level 10 monsters are not unheard of. In fact, the Grand Elder from 2 generations ago once saw, deep in the frozen sea far from Beiming Island, a level 10 ancient ice phoenix. It possessed a true ancient spirit beast bloodline. The power of that beast alone was enough to stand against most of the cultivators from RZG Palace. Bai Yaoyi's voice became solemn. A level 10 ice phoenix. When Han Li heard this, he was stunned. You don't have to worry, Brother Han. It's said that when our sect's founder first established our school here, we once fought a few of the powerful demonic beasts from this coastal area, and had a fierce clash with them. We even made an agreement with each other. Our ZG Palace is not to attack the coastal, high-level demonic beasts without reason. The high-level demonic beasts, in turn, are not to appear within a million li of North Ming Island. Otherwise, they can be dealt with by our ZG Palace as we see fit. As for the low-level demonic beasts, they are not bound by this agreement. The swarms of demons that have besieged our ZG Palace in the past all came to the northern lands from other parts of the Great Jin. If the coastal demonic beasts had also gotten involved, our ZG Palace would have been trampled flat countless times over. This situation has been this way since ancient times. Otherwise, how could our ZG Palace have stood firm on this peninsula until today? Bai Yaoyi explained. In that case, our journey this time should be without any risks. Han Li said with surprise, a smile appearing on his face. That's not necessarily true. An agreement is just an agreement. After all, there are still times when high-level demonic beasts fly into a violent rage and come barging in, disregarding everything. Because of this, almost every year, some of our palace disciples die at the hands of demonic beasts. It's best we remain cautious on this trip, Bai Yaoyi said, shaking her head. It's only a journey of a few days. It'll be over in a flash. How could we be so unlucky? Han Li glanced at the gold and silver glacier below him and said indifferently. Then, his clear light flared brightly, and his speed instantly increased by 30%. Actually, Bai Yaoyi thought so too. She was just explaining the situation earlier. Seeing this, with a glance of her bright eyes, her body glowed with a dazzling light, and she instantly followed after him. Along the way, as expected, there was no sign of any high-level demonic beasts. Besides, the coastal region is incredibly vast. They hadn't even seen Chebo or the 2 demonic beasts. So, after 3 days and 3 nights of continuous flight, they finally arrived above a giant ice fissure. This is the lair of the snow howl beasts. Han Li gazed into the unfathomably deep ice fissure, from which a biting cold wind blew endlessly. He frowned and asked, "That's right. This is indeed the place my disciple spoke of." The elegant Bai Yaoyi floated beside Han Li, and after glancing around a few times, said with certainty, "In that case, let's draw them out directly." Han Li nodded. He formed a seal with one hand. As a spiritual light flashed around him, spakes of fire immediately appeared before him. After a few sputtering sounds, the sparks suddenly flared up wildly, transforming into fist-sized, crimson fireballs. With a wave of his sleeve towards his front, he gently pushed the dozens of fireballs forward. With a whistling sound, a red glow enveloped the fireballs as they plummeted straight down, disappearing into the pitch-black fissure in the blink of an eye, vanishing without a trace. Han Li and Bai Yaoyi stared down below. without even blinking. But after quite a while, the fissure remained as calm as before. Not the slightest sound of an explosion was heard. The silence was somewhat eerie. Han Li and Bai Yaoyi glanced at each other, a trace of surprise showing on both their faces. They're just level 5 or 6 demonic beasts. It's impossible for them to have dealt with those fireballs so silently. It seems there's an even more formidable demonic beast down there. Han Li rubbed his chin and said, "It's possible. That disciple of mine did not venture deep into the ice fissure. She only saw the 10,000-year black ice and the black ice flower at the edge, before she was discovered by those hell beasts." A hint of solemnity also appeared on Bai Yaoyi's face. "Heh. No matter. I will use my spirit beasts to force them out," Han Li said calmly. He slapped his spirit beast pouch with one hand. Instantly, 12 white lights shot out from the pouch. They then circled in the air, transforming into several snow-white centipedes, each about a foot long. They had transparent wings on their backs. Their gazes were fierce, and with a low hiss, they obeyed his command and pointed towards the 6-winged creatures in the air. These flying centipedes shook their heads and wagged their tails, and their bodies shimmered with a cold light. They all swooped down into the crevice below. When Bai Yao saw this, a trace of surprise flashed across her face, but she said nothing. Han Li wasn't the least bit afraid for these 6-winged frost centipedes, or worried that they would run into any danger. After all, with 12 of them working together, they could easily escape even from a level 8 demonic beast. And sure enough, it wasn't long before from the ice crevice below, the rumbling sound of a fight could be heard. This sound grew louder and louder, as if something was about to fly out from inside. Han Li pursed his lips, remaining silent. With a flick of his embroidered robe, a dozen golden lights shot out from his sleeve, transforming into more than 10-foot-long golden swords that hovered above the ice crevice, shimmering brightly. Perfectly still, Bai Yao smiled, but she also made no move to attack. Apparently, she believed that Han Li alone could handle the demonic beasts that were about to emerge. With ease. A moment later, a strange hissing sound came clearly from below. Then, gusts of white, snowy wind swept out, and mixed within were 7 or 8 snow-white, lion-like demonic beasts. But every single one had a look of absolute terror, as if they were fleeing for their lives. Han Li recognized them at a glance. These demon beasts looked just like lions. They were the so-called Zuhu beasts. He didn't hesitate for a second. With a mental command, the golden sword trembled and transformed into streaks of brilliant light, shooting downwards, stretching for several meters. It was dazzling to behold. The flying sword was incredibly fast, like a bolt of lightning. In a flash, it sliced through the seemingly fierce blizzard, and reached the demon beasts. Before the demon beasts could even react, the streaks of light bizarrely circled around them. A few screams rang out, and the demon beasts were sliced in half at the waist. They all plummeted from the sky, falling back into the ice crevasse. The next moment, a world-shaking roar erupted from below, followed by a loud boom. A massive whirlwind, several meters thick, shot up from the depths of the ice crevasse. Han Li's eyes narrowed. He looked up, and saw at the top of the cyclone, it carried a massive, silver-furred demon beast with a furious expression. This demon beast's appearance was extremely similar to the slain Zuhu beasts, but its fur shone with a brilliant, fluorescent light, and it was more than twice the size of a Zuhu beast. This isn't a Zuhu beast, it's a binning beast. How could a high-level demon beast like this be here? Bai Yaoyi murmured in surprise, clearly finding it very strange. Han Li's eyes glinted. Before he could say anything, again from within the ice crevasse, more than 10 streams of white vapor shot out. In a flash, they transformed into 12 snow-white centipedes. They pounced towards the silver-furred demon beast, spitting out cold che. Although that demon beast was only a level 7, it seemed completely unafraid of the centipede's cold che, and in the ensuing melee of bites and clashes, it was extraordinarily ferocious. It was actually able to fight against 12 6-winged centipedes. They were only locked in a stalemate for a moment. Han Li raised an eyebrow, let out a cold snort, and lifted a finger. A light flickered at his fingertip. He was about to command the flying swords above his head to strike and slay this beast. But Bai Yaoyi, who was at the side, suddenly spoke up. "Wait, fellow cultivator, please show mercy. This ice scale beast, is a rare ice attribute demonic beast. Please let me take it. I have a great use for it." Hearing this, Han Li was taken aback for a moment, but then he smiled nonchalantly. "In that case, I'll help you capture it, fellow cultivator." Fairy Bai doesn't need to lift a finger. After saying this, Han Li opened his mouth and spat out a ball of purple flame. Immediately, a clear cry came from within it, as it transformed into a large firebird. Incredibly lifelike, it spread its wings and lunged towards the peak where the beast was. When the 12 snow-white centipedes saw the firebird approaching, they immediately scattered in fear, leaving that silver demonic beast all alone. Although this ice-scale beast's intelligence wasn't fully developed, it still possessed some level of intellect. Seeing this situation, how could it not know how terrifying this purple firebird was? A fierce wind immediately erupted around its body, as it prepared to ride the gale and escape. But just then, the already prepared Han Li let out a cold snort. A golden light flashed in his eyes. The beast immediately felt a sharp pain in its head, as if it had been pierced by a sharp awl. It let out a low roar, and its body collapsed to the ground. It turned out Han Li had used his powerful divine sense to fiercely strike the beast with a spirit thorn. Even though Han Li hadn't used his full strength, with his late nascent soul cultivation base, it was more than enough. Such powerful divine might. How could this mere level 7 demonic beast possibly withstand it? Naturally, the strike was a success. Seizing this opportunity, the purple firebird pounced in front of the beast. It circled and danced for a moment. A loud sizzling sound erupted. A ball of hazy mist appeared out of thin air, instantly enveloping the beast within it. Meanwhile, the purple firebird immediately flapped its wings and flew back, disappearing straight into Han Li's body without a trace. After the purple mist dissipated, a purple block of ice, 10 jong tall, appeared there. The ice-condensing beast was frozen solid inside it. At this moment, because the beast was trapped, the hurricane also began to gradually disappear and dissipate. The block of ice started to plummet downwards, to the side. Bai Yaoyi was a bit surprised by Han Li's purple apex fire. Without a second thought, she made a grasping motion in the air with one hand. Instantly, a large white hand materialized above the block of ice. Seizing the giant ice block, it then shot directly towards the woman. "Thank you, Brother Han. Then I won't be polite." Bai Yaoyi gave Han Li a gentle smile. Then, with a flip of her jade-like hand, a shimmering, faint black beast-taming pouch suddenly appeared. She first tossed this beast-taming pouch into midair. Then, a radiant light flew out from it, wrapping around the giant block of ice, and sucking it, along with the silver demonic beast, into the pouch. The spirit beast pouch was then put away by the woman. Seeing the satisfied look on Bai Yaoyi's face, Han Li gave a faint smile. He gestured towards the 12 snow-white centipedes circling in the air. After a series of hisses, the centipedes erupted with clouds of frigid air. In the blink of an eye, their figures quietly vanished. Seeing this scene, Bai Yao was hesitant, but Han Li casually explained, "When I'm refining pills with the ice-ling flower, I don't want to be disturbed by any demon beasts. With these spirit insects guarding the area, it should be much safer," and nodded in agreement. The two of them then transformed into weightless forms, to balls of spiritual light flying down into the enormous ice crevice. Inside the ice crevice, it was pitch black, aside from gusts of cold wind, swirling around the two of them ceaselessly. It was actually quite similar to when they entered the Yin-Yang cave. Back then, however, as they neared the bottom, a faint fluorescent light began to appear on the ice walls on both sides of the crevice. This is the material for refining ice. Attribute magic artifacts, profound ice. However, this is just ordinary profound ice. It can't be considered truly rare. Only 10,000-year profound ice can be considered an exceptional material for artifact refinement. Naturally, someone like Han Li wouldn't be interested in this stuff. But when their feet truly touched the bottom of the ice crevice, a vein that emitted a milky white light, a crystal-like mineral vein, appeared before the two of them. Although it was uneven, and only a small part was exposed, it was enough to show that this was a vein of 10,000-year profound ice, far beyond what those inferior products above could compare to. But Han Li's gaze fell upon 3 small, milky white flowers on the crystal wall. These small flowers were only about the size of a fist, resembling common wildflowers you might see on the roadside, but their roots were each growing on pieces of the exposed 10,000-year profound ice. Furthermore, nearby there were clusters of faint, cold mist swirling uncertainly around the petals. 3 profound ice flowers should be enough. Han Li let out a long breath. He murmured, "It seems there's quite a reserve of 10,000-year mystic ice here. Looks like that disciple really put in a lot of work. I'll have to reward him handsomely when I get back." After Bai Yaoyi finished dealing with all this mystic ice, A smile appeared on her face. These ice-ling flowers must be refined into pills immediately after being picked. I've already prepared the other ingredients. Fairy Bai, are you planning on heading back first, or? Hamli tore his gaze away from the ice-ling flowers and asked Bai Yaoyi, how long will it take to refine the pills? How about I look around the area for a bit? This place isn't too far from the northern Nether Island, yet a level 7 demonic beast like that appeared here. I can't help but feel that something is off. I'll take this chance to investigate. Bai Yaoyi paused. After a moment of thought, she replied gently, that sounds like a good idea. However, you must be careful. Hamli was slightly taken aback. She didn't try to stop him, only offering a word of caution. Rest assured, I'm only doing this just in case. Most likely, that level 7 demonic beast wandered into this place by accident. It's not like this hasn't happened before. I'll be heading off now. Bai Yaoyi pursed her lips into a smile, her beautiful face revealing a hint of enchanting charm. Then, she transformed into a streak of light and shot upwards, flying away. Hamli watched as the streak of light eventually disappeared high in the sky. Only then did he lower his head to glance at the 3 ice-ling flowers. After a moment's thought, he slapped his storage pouch, and several beams of light of different colors shot out, disappearing into the surrounding ice walls without a trace. A layer of faint blue mist began to appear as if from nowhere, enveloping the surrounding area. After he had done all this, a loud humming sound arose. A golden sphere appeared, also shot out from Han Li's body, turning into spakes of golden light that vanished into the mist. With this done, as long as it wasn't an overly powerful demonic beast, it should ensure he could successfully concoct the mystic ice pill. Once he felt secure, Han Li raised his hand and released a fist-sized, brightly glowing cauldron. It floated down gently in front of him. Afterwards, some pieces of wood and small bottles flew out one after another from his storage bag, covering the ground. Only then did Han Li's gaze shift, landing on that golden block of ice. With a flick of his embroidered sleeve, 3 streaks of golden light flashed out. They wrapped around the 3 small flowers on the mystic ice. Instantly, the 10,000-year mystic ice, along with the flowers, fell down together. But the well-prepared Han Li tapped a point on the ground. 3 large jade cases flew out, disappearing from their original spot. But in the next moment, they bizarrely reappeared beneath a golden block. The 3 white flowers fell into the cases, completely unscathed. A satisfied expression appeared on Han Li's face. Suddenly, he formed hand seals and cast a series of spell signs into the surrounding mist. The mist churned and rolled outwards in all directions. A moment later, it had completely submerged the bottom of the ice chasm. It was no longer possible to see the situation inside. Above the ice phoenix chasm, the cold wind howled. Other than that, everything was exceptionally quiet. Just like that, time passed bit by bit. In the blink of an eye, 3 days had passed. At this moment, the bottom of the ice phoenix chasm was still, exceptionally dense with mist, showing no signs of dissipating at all. It seemed as if it would last forever. Suddenly, a flash of light appeared on the distant horizon. 3 streaks of light, one in front and to behind, shot over from a distance. Their speed was extremely fast. In just a moment's time, they reached the vicinity of the ice phoenix chasm. The silver streak of light in the lead flew over hurriedly. The spiritual light was somewhat dim. It seemed the owner of the light was severely injured. Behind her, a red and a green streak of light were blindingly bright, full of menacing aura. It was clearly a chase between the 3 of them. The spiritual light retracted, and from within the glow, a slender woman in white appeared. Her face was ashen, and it was covered with a layer of faint green energy. It was none other than Bai Yaoyi, who had left 3 days ago. It's unknown what this woman had encountered to be hunted all the way to this place. She also looked like she was deeply poisoned, to the point where even her mid-nascent soul cultivation level couldn't suppress it. The woman arrived above the ice phoenix. She hurriedly looked down below. Upon seeing the vast, rolling blue mist, she immediately let out a long sigh of relief. Her expression relaxed. But just then, the red and green lights behind her were suddenly less than 100 jong away, and from within the green light, a man's voice was heard. What's wrong? You know you're poisoned. So, you finally decided to stop running. If you obediently surrender, I, the Heavenly Lord, might just spare your life for now. The voice was sinister and cold, filled with a sense of triumph. Bai Yaoyi snorted coldly, paying him no mind. She plunged headfirst down towards the ice phoenix. In the end, after her glow flickered a few times, She disappeared without a trace into the mist, and the two streaks of light arrived above the ice phoenix a moment later. Vaguely, a man and a woman appeared within the lights. When these two saw the blue mist below the ice phoenix, they were both stunned, and began to hesitate slightly. These two were both demonic beasts that had taken human form. Their spiritual intelligence was fully awakened. They were in no way inferior to humans. Seeing that Bai Yaoyi had stopped fleeing, and had instead hidden in the formation below, must have been startled, just as the two were about to use their spiritual sense to first investigate the ice phoenix. Suddenly, a white mist churned all around, and 12 snow-white centipedes appeared. Each of them had a pair of wings, and a ferocious, six-winged form. The woman in the red light trembled, and let out a gasp of utter surprise and delight. Her voice was even trembling slightly. What? These are six-winged Shuangong. The man in the green light was also taken aback. Excellent. As long as I devour these spirit insects, with the convergence of yin and yang, it's enough to allow me to break through the great restriction. The woman let out a harsh laugh. A fiery light flared up around her body, and over a dozen fire snakes shot out. They were several yards long. Each one had a pair of wings, and breath flames from its mouth, pouncing aggressively towards the centipedes. For a moment, flames and frigid air intertwined. Piercing screeches echoed amidst the explosions. At this moment, the red light faded, and the woman appeared clearly. She had a slender figure, emerald green eyes, and was quite beautiful. But on her cheeks were several crimson scales. She wore a bright red robe, and when she opened her mouth, a thin, forked snake tongue flickered in and out. She was actually an unknown type of demon, a level 8 demon beast that had taken the form of a snake. Her eyes were fixedly staring at those six-winged Shuangong, her face filled with greed. The demon's red light flared up again, as she prepared to make a move herself, to capture these six-winged Shuangong one by one. But suddenly, a buzzing sound came from below. Then, a large patch of golden light shot out from the dense fog. It then condensed into a golden orb the size of a canopy, shooting straight into the air, rushing towards the two of them. The man in the green light was startled by the sight, but without any hesitation, he flicked his sleeve. A dragon-like stream of poisonous green gas shot out from his sleeve, sweeping down from above. It instantly swallowed the golden cloud. The man sneered. He was just waiting for his poison cloud to melt the golden one into a foul sludge. What a useless fossil. But he suddenly realized that buzzing sound hadn't disappeared at all. Instead, it burst out of the green cloud and rushed straight at him. The man was utterly stunned by this. Without a second thought, his body spun like a top. The green light around him shifted downwards, leaving his body. It transformed into a wall of fire several yards high, and it rolled towards the golden cloud. Instantly, a sizzling sound erupted. Wherever it passed, the brilliant light dimmed. Then, a popping sound was heard. Countless golden sparks, tinged with green flames, fell straight down. The remnants of the golden cloud were instantly scattered, revealing one golden beetle after another. Inside the green mist, they were stumbling and falling. They could only struggle weakly. Seeing this, the man's heart finally relaxed. But he suddenly remembered something. He quickly took a closer look at the remaining beetles. Suddenly, a look of sheer terror appeared on his face. Golden devouring beetles. These are mature devouring beetles. How can there still be so many of these creatures in the world? Without the cover of the green light, his own bizarre appearance was also revealed.